Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back in with another video, and this is going to be the LEGO Star Wars MOC Showcase episode 17. This is a series I've created to highlight some of the best MOCs I've come across on the internet. If you find any of the MOCs in this video particularly impressive, I ask that you go to the link in the description and support the builders by giving them a like, comment, or even a follow. The first MOC we're going to take a look at today are some Hoth Barracks by builder Gabe F. And this thing is just incredible. Like, where do I even begin on this? I guess the first thing that you'll notice about the MOC in general is how he doesn't just strictly follow the guidelines of like a Lego base plate. And what I mean by that is things seem to be laid out more freely and dynamically. They aren't just, you know, in 90-degree angles, kind of as studs would kind of compel you to do so. So that kind of philosophy is really taken throughout the entire MOC, and I think it just makes it visually appealing. Like, you can take a MOC of like a house or something, if you situate it like at an angle on a base plate and build up the ground around it, that can make the MOC just instantly far more interesting than it would have been, just because when you see something in Lego that's kind of unconventionally connected, I feel like your eye is more drawn towards it. Hopefully you guys know exactly what I mean by this, but just to talk about a few things that are consistent with that in this MOC. The first thing I noticed are those little like the cubbies that the guys have that they be sleeping in, and those are actually just really cool. Like, it's a cool build. It's something that we don't see on Hoth, but the way he built it just makes a lot of sense. Like, I imagine if they, you know, had those built into the base, like that's what their thing would look like. It's probably heated in there due to the conditions, and I don't know, those guys look pretty cozy in there too. So I actually like those builds quite a bit. And there's even like kind of wires coming from it going towards a generator, which probably further gives off the implication that yes, those things are heated. So just a little attention to details like that, I feel, can go a long way. I also love the panels on the floor, the like gratings there. Once again, those aren't just like lined straight up going through the MOC. They're kind of dynamically sitting there, which is really what we'd expect to see in Hoth when they lay down those grates. They're not really like perfectly lined up with each other. They're kind of all over the place. So I like that that's also shown here in this MOC. And I also just love the grunginess of these barracks. You know, these are soldiers. These are guys who are, you know, dealing with a hard time trying to find fun wherever they can. So you can see they've gone out of their way to kind of decorate the walls with some pictures. So over to the left, there's like the pilot poster, and then over to the right, there is a Twi'lek poster, of course. Everyone loves Twi'leks. But yeah, I love kind of how they're situated. The one guy's got a bottle in his hand. The guy to the left has a bottle sitting right next to his bed. He's taking his gear off. And then even on top of his bed, he has a sock. I don't know, I love that piece. Is just so freaking hilarious to me. The fact that Lego at one point made a 1x2 tile with just a sock printed on it. If you want to make like a messy room MOC, I feel like that is key to it, that sock piece. And you get me a few of those. But yeah, all in all, this is just an incredible build. One of the last things I actually wanted to mention is the technique used for the wall. There's a lot of wedge bricks on there, and it looks really good. I mean, for one, they all just kind of flow together. They're not really connected in any particular way. There's a lot of snot techniques to use for it, but they just flow together really well, and the angles match up really well also. So all in all, like, this is just an incredible MOC. There's attention to detail all over the place. It's an interesting setting, something we don't typically see. So I gotta give this thing 2 thumbs up. You did a wonderful job on this MOC, man. The next MOC we're gonna take a look at is a UCS X-Wing MOC by Crash Kramer. First thing you'll notice about this MOC is that it looks like he's like drawn on it with maybe like a permanent marker or something to further illustrate some details. And I mean, I don't doubt that those are consistent with like the studio model, but I'm not really a fan of that. But moving past that, I think this is actually an excellent model. The way it's built is actually just incredible. You guys know that I'm not really a fan of the Lego UCS X-Wing models, namely because of the cockpit and the engines. I think that both of those are just lacking. Specifically, the UCS X-Wing engines are just way too small on those, but this one seems to do a much better job at really just getting the angles and the scale and the size of things correctly on this X-Wing. So let's talk a little bit about it. I like that the wings are actually built snot as opposed to with plates, because I don't know, it just looks smoother, it looks more seamless. I feel that that's the way to go, especially when you're building at this scale. It's kind of the same thing they did with the UCS Imperial Shuttle. So if they took another crack at the UCS X-Wing, I'd actually like to see that. It makes the model look a lot more premium. Another thing you'll notice about this model is, like I said, the angles. The angles are just great, especially on like the front fuselage, specifically like between the nose and the cockpit area. I feel that all that just lines up really well, and it looks pretty smooth too. Like there's some pretty intense techniques going on right there, and doing that with Lego is no easy feat whatsoever, but I think this builder actually did an incredible job with it. If we move on to the next photo, we just get a side profile view of the X-Wing. Another thing I really did like about this MOC is the fact that if we move on to the next photo, we get a side profile view of the X-Wing, and I really just love the cockpit. Like, a lot of people will take objection to these brick-built cockpits, and I mean, I think it's ideal. Like, if Lego were to make a custom mold for it and actually do it correctly, have it look the way it should, I'd totally be a fan of it. But up until this point, they really just haven't been able to nail the angles of an X-Wing cockpit. So I will be more than happy to get these brick-built ones. And this guy did a great job at it. Like, it looks exactly the way it should. There's some pretty cool techniques in there. So all in all, I would much prefer this to the inaccuracies of the Lego cockpit. Another thing that's kind of cool about this build is the use of the rubber bands on the guns. You can see it looks like he uses rubber bands to kind of hold the tiles around some like round pieces. There's probably like wheel pieces or something like that in there, which is actually kind of a cool technique. I've never considered doing that before, but with the white rubber bands and the white pieces inside of them, that actually kind of makes sense. I kind of like that. A lot of people will say, oh, that's illegal, you shouldn't do that, but I don't know, I don't mind. I think it actually looks kind of cool. If we move on to the next photo, we get a good look at the back of it, and I really feel he captured the kind of like hexagonal shape of the back of the X-Wing like perfectly. That looks so good in there. He even used that like TIE Fighter dish piece on like one of the older TIE Fighters they used to do, and that looks cool. It's a nice like a detail piece that kind of sits in there, and the engines also look really nice as well. On the very back of them, it looks like there's some of those tread pieces, and they even kind of converge to somewhat of a cone. If I can't, it's hard to tell, but it looks like they may be like slightly angled, so that looks really nice as well. And then if we go to the final picture, we just get a better look of like the top back of the MOC. And once again, it's just a very well made MOC. Like, the angles on this thing are incredible. Once again, I love that he used snot for the wings. Looks like he even has some custom decals on there, which is pretty cool, because you'd have quite the time trying to get a lot of those X-Wing wing patterns on the wing and actually have it be accurate. But if Lego were to do another UCS X-Wing, and I have no doubt that that will happen, just because I feel like the last two we've gotten really leave much to be desired. This is the direction I'd like to see them go in. Like, this is just an excellent model. It has a bigger R2-D2 in there, which is also pretty sweet. Like, the Lego one uses the minifig sized R2-D2. This one, it looks like, I mean, this looks like a custom dome. I think this was actually made before we got the R2-D2 polybag, but he has like a bigger custom R2-D2 build in there, and I think that looks so much better than having the R2-D2 minifig inside a large UCS scaled X-Wing. But yeah, there's just so many techniques. I could really talk about this MOC for hours on end about some of the stuff he's done to construct it, but it really just boils down to the angles. The angles in this thing are incredible, so just a wonderful job at making this X-Wing, man. I want to see Lego do a UCS X-Wing that gets in even somewhere close to this. That'd be nice. Next up, we'll take a look at this week's photography base build. Wow, 2 weeks in a row. I'm so proud of myself for this. This is called Latest Find. It's by Ben Cossy, and I think that the lighting is really what just like brings this MOC up and over. Honestly, this build probably has a lot more like techniques and usage of parts than the typical photography based build that I would include in this series, but I think that the scene that it just kind of sets here, I'd rather review it as like a photograph than an actual MOC. And like I said, the lighting is just incredible. I'm not sure if those are actual like trans orange parts that are kind of used to mask the light coming in from the window, or if he just put some like trans orange like piece of plastic or something between it. But either way, it looks really nice. I feel this really just captures the mood of the droids being on the Sandcrawler, especially with all the parts just laying about. Like, it's a total mess in there. He even included some of the newer droids from the most recent Sandcrawler set, which is good. Those were the ones that were on the Sandcrawler. And I think like just this picture just really takes you right back to that scene in A New Hope. So I love photos that can just kind of encapsulate everything about a scene, and this picture certainly does that. So this isn't really one that I can talk about for too long because it's pretty straightforward, but I can just look at this thing all day. This is such a cool photo, and another one that I would love to have like blown up and framed and put somewhere in like a Lego room. So I hope you guys like this as much as I did. The next MOC we're going to take a look at today is actually a first on this series. It is a clone base. And this is one heck of a clone base. It's by a builder named Sanel Lukovic. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And even just from the outside, like, this thing clearly has its own identity with some of just the architectural choices and just the designs on the outside of it. I mean, there's just so many like detail pieces used just on the exterior of this MOC that I think make it look pretty incredible. But one of the things that really stick out to me about this first photo is that turret on the left side. It's very unique looking. I like it. And then there's I also like how it kind of goes to the inside of the hangar, so you can see like clones hanging out behind it, like it isn't just totally secluded to the outside of the MOC. I don't know, I think it's kind of a cool way to really just integrate the outside of the MOC with the inside of the MOC. It's something kind of small, but I actually like that thing quite a bit. Also, the gunship at the top right corner is pretty interesting. It looks like there's some custom colors on that and even a custom sticker at the very front. I can't really tell exactly what it's supposed to be. It's kind of reminiscent of the ARC gunship with those dark blue colors on it, but I think it looks really nice as well. Moving on to the next photo. This is actually the first photo I saw of this MOC, and I mean, this alone I felt was sufficient for the MOC showcase, and then I found out that this thing was an entire base, so I was like, oh crap, I'm totally sold on this thing. But I just love what's going on here. It looks like there's like some repairs being made to a turbo tank, so there's parts of it that aren't connected at the moment, but it looks like the clones are, I don't know, they're either like loading up parts onto it to repair it, or maybe they're taking off broken parts. Either way, it looks pretty cool. I just love the scene that's being set here. I think also the idea of that like 2/12 clone at the bottom with the welding mask is kind of hilarious. Like, I would love to see that as like an Easter egg somewhere in a film, just like a clone with clone armor with like a welding mask, because why not? But it looks like the most recent turbo tank with a lot of modifications, like there's some snot stuff on there and just more detail pieces which actually look pretty cool. And I like this a lot. I can imagine, you know, after the battle, once they get back to their base, they gotta do repairs, they gotta make sure everything is in order. So I like the tone that's being set here. It's also not ignore the fact that there are some pretty cool usage of lights here, specifically with that balcony that the clones are sitting on the left side of this photo. That looks really nice as well. The next photo is just the same general area, but from another angle. So I literally have no idea what those two things are supposed to be on the right side, but they look pretty sweet. So I don't know, the one with the red light coming through it as well. I literally have no idea what that possibly could be. It kind of reminds me of like a docking port in Star Wars, but it doesn't really make sense to have one of those right there. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a generator or something. I don't know. Either way, it looks pretty cool. Also, we get a better view of the clone with the welding mask, and I don't know why I find that so hilarious, but that's such a good idea for this MOC. So I give him actually a lot of credit for incorporating that. If we move on to the last photo, we get a look at generally just some other area in this base. Unfortunately, I couldn't really find a big picture of the inside of the base. All I could really find is that outside picture and then a few of these kind of close-ups. So I'm not entirely sure where this is relative to the turbo tank, but it's a good picture nonetheless, so I decided why not incorporate it. And I'm noticing, like, as I'm looking through these photos, there's actually a decent amount of Easter eggs in this MOC. The one I literally just noticed was the clone at the very bottom with like the headpiece and the earphones on, kind of like a janitor clone walking around chilling. That's like, I think I would like to imagine that's like a young clone 99 or something. I don't know. But either way, this MOC is just so freaking cool. Like, I feel like this takes the traditional clone base that we'd see on YouTube, you know, like 5 or so years ago, and it really just takes it to the next level with the usage of lights and all the various parts that are incorporated in it. Like, there's just so much detail in this base, and you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of clone bases, but this thing I feel just knocks it right out of the park. Like, I love this MOC. This is a wonderfully made clone base. And that's going to finish up the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed checking out these MOCs as much as I enjoyed showing them to you. Like I say, if you find any of the MOCs in this video impressive, guys, just please go ahead, support the builders. The links are in the description. Go show them some love. They certainly deserve it. Also, if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, and support the channel by smashing that subscribe button. I'll be back again very soon.